Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is giving hints about what her future political plans are. Let's go through the hints, and I'm going to tell you where I think she's headed politically. Okay, so the big news this week. Her campaign announced that it had raised $9.6 million between January 1st and the end of March. That is a stunning amount of money for a House candidate in a safe Democratic district. Even more amazingly, the campaign announced that it had raised that money from 266,000 individual donors with an average contribution of $21. Now, just to put that in context, that $10 million is almost as much money as Jon Ossoff, who's the most endangered Democratic incumbent senator, who's up in 2026, raised in the first 3 months of this year. It's 2/3 of what AOC raised herself for the entire 2023-2024 election cycle. $10 million from 266,000 donors. Now, what does that sound like to you? I'll tell you what it sounds like. It sounds like someone who might be putting together a broader campaign. Am I right? I'm right. Okay, so I also want to highlight what she said about the money, because this is another breadcrumb, I think, along the way. She said this via X. I cannot convey enough how grateful I am to the millions of people supporting us with your time, resources, and energy. Your support has allowed us to rally people together at record scale to organize their communities. Millions of people, you say? National message. What could that mean? Another breadcrumb sprinkled along the way. And then there's this. Ocasio-Cortez is in the midst of a nationwide tour with Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. It's called the Fighting Oligarchy Tour, where they've been in Arizona and Nevada and Utah and Idaho and several stops in California. They were in Bakersfield, California on Tuesday. They are drawing huge crowds. 36,000 people in Los Angeles, 30,000 people in Denver, 12,000 people in Idaho. Not exactly a Democratic-friendly place. Why would you go on a national campaign tour with Bernie Sanders, who I will note has run for president twice before, if you didn't have some plans beyond the state of New York? Breadcrumbs. Okay, so before I get in, I think you kind of know where the arrow is pointing here, but before I get into all of that and whether AOC could actually win, I want to do this. I want you to subscribe to my channel. Here's why. I am someone who is calling balls and strikes no matter what uniform the batter at the plate is wearing. I'm an independent journalist, independent both in that I'm not affiliated with any big legacy media organization, and independent and I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. Spent 20 plus years working for big legacy outlets, CNN, Washington Post most recently, and I'm giving all that up to do this, which is to bring news straight to you in a way that is independent, authentic, and transparent. If you like that, I'm making videos every day. I hope you subscribe. All right, so let's talk about where AOC is headed. So she's now 36 years old, I believe, which means she is now eligible in 2028 to, yes, run for president. And as you almost certainly concluded from my massive fundraising that she has done, her message about the fundraising, her national tour with Bernie Sanders, all of those things are the kind of thing that a candidate who wants to run for president does. And I don't know that she's made her mind up at that, right? She has basically three options before her heading into the next couple of years. One, just continue to stay in the House, try to move up the ladder of leadership. She's struggled a little bit with that, but I think, that could happen. Two, run for the Senate in 2028. So Chuck Schumer is up in 2028. Not clear if he's going to run again. If he does, she could primary him. That would be a colossally big race. If he doesn't run again, she could run for that seat, and she might well start that race as a front runner. But there's also the presidential race. And I think Ocasio-Cortez has aspirations, ambitions, and a message that she thinks needs to go out beyond the state of New York and into the country. That is sort of a liberal populist message. The elites are screwing us. Donald Trump is lying to you. We need to fight him all the time, right? That message has real resonance, by the way. Bernie Sanders came pretty close to being the nominee in 2020 before Joe Biden rode in and COVID rode in. So I think there's resonance there. And I do think that at least at the moment, if I had to make an educated guess about what she does next, I think she runs for re-election in 2026 to the House. But I think she has a very clear eye on 2028. Now, that raises the question of, can she win? Can she be the Democratic nominee? As I remind people, and can she be president? Let me take the second question first. I remind people of this all the time. People who say, fill in the blank could never be president. Donald Trump is the current president of the United States. He is in his second term as the president of the United States. So do not tell me that fill in the blank cannot be elected president, right? Because everyone said that in 2015 about Donald Trump, and he not only won that race, I know he lost in 2020, but he came back and won in 2024. So let's not make declarative statements about who can and can't be president. I think that's got to be thrown out the window. The first question about the Democratic primary. So I think she's a major factor. I don't know that she wins, but I think she's a major factor, and I'll tell you why. She's going to be able to raise the money, and that's sort of the biggest bar. You've got to be able to raise money to build organizations in places like Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, and Nevada, those early voting states. If you can raise $10 million in 3 months from over 250,000 donors with the average contribution being $20, that means you have a national donor network, a small dollar donor network, and that's how you really raise big bucks. If you look at the last Democrat who raised huge amounts of money, like a Barack Obama, for example, a lot of it was raised in small dollar donations, right? Yes, you can get people to give you $2,500, but then they can't give you any more. But if somebody gives you 20 and then another 20 and then another 20, and you got 5 million people doing that, now you're on to something. So that's one. Number two, she's already a well-known figure. If I asked you to name the 5 Democrats that you know, whether you live in the East Coast, West Coast, or Middle America, my guess is she'd be in there. You'd probably say Joe Biden, Barack Obama, Nancy Pelosi, AOC, I don't know, Kamala Harris, maybe. But she'd be in there, I think. And if she's not in the top 5, she's certainly in the top 6 or 7. I'll point to a poll out of Yale University that came out earlier this week. They did a hypothetical 2028 Democratic primary matchup. Kamala Harris was first at 28%. Makes sense. She's the best known candidate. She was the vice president. She was the presidential nominee in the most recent election. You know who was in second with 21%? AOC. Now, I think that's probably her high water mark right now. I've seen other polling that has her kind of high single digits, low double digits in a big long list of Democratic primary candidates for 2028. But the point is, people know her name. She's going to raise money. And then there's this. She has a built-in constituency. Sanders has been tilling this soil for decades. Liberal populism. Millionaires and billionaires. That's my Bernie Sanders impersonation. It's pretty good, right? I think that has real resonance when you have a billionaire in the White House as president and his closest advisor is also a billionaire and the richest man in the world, Elon Musk. So I think there's potential there. Now, is she the best nominee for Democrats? Now, that is a very open question, right? Because I think what you've seen out of a lot of potential 2028 candidates, Gavin Newsom, J.B. Pritzker, Rahm Emanuel, a lot of them are moving more to the center. On cultural issues, they're basically saying we are too, people think we are woke and weak and we can't win that way, and they're moving more to the center. AOC obviously is not going to move to the center. Tonally, she might move to the center a bit, but on her policy, she's not moving to the center. So the question is nominating someone who is as liberal as she is, and to be clear, she was elected to Congress as a Democratic socialist, so she's about as liberal as they come. Is picking someone like her potentially dooming the Democratic Party, given what we know about the electorate from 2024? I think that's an open question, right? Like, again, I am not ready to rule in or out anyone as a Democratic nominee or as the next president of the United States, because Donald Trump has proven to me that I shouldn't rule anyone in or out in that regard, because no one would have predicted Donald Trump would wind up where he is today. No one. Back in 2014, early 2015. So I think, I've said this before, I'm going to say it again. I think she is one of the most interesting voices in the Democratic Party at the moment. She represents a clear constituency. She has star power. She is now demonstrating the ability to raise money. And this national tour with Sanders, when you combine it with everything else, makes me think that when she thinks about her future, It's the presidential race in 2028 that intrigues her the most. All right, that's it for me today. As always, I ask you, as I did, subscribe. Easiest thing to do and the thing that helps me the most. You can like and comment this on this video in particular. Again, pretty easy to do. Hit that like button, make a comment. Do you think AOC can or can't win the nomination? Do you think if she does, she can or can't win the presidency? Those things help me get my content out to more people on YouTube who don't subscribe to me, and I hope will subscribe if they see what I'm doing. Last thing you can do, as always, it's old school. Tell a friend or two about what I'm doing and what I'm building here. I really appreciate your support if you already are a subscriber. If you're new, if you're thinking about it, I hope this video tips you over the edge and you become one. All right, everyone, take care.